very nice hello. Evening, everybody. Hey.
So, thank you for coming this evening. Thank you everyone else for coming. We're going to start with the fact that you were both 14 when you auditioned for Harry Potter. Neither of you had ever acted before. What made you go along that day?
A couple of things, really. One, there was a chance to get in a major film. Two, we had a day off school.
It's probably not the best place to say that, really.
So, no, but we decided that, we basically heard that there was an open audition going, so they were casting every role in the movie, so we thought, why not? What have we got to lose? So we actually we drove up from our home in Sutton Coldfield, North Birmingham, up to Leeds, which seemed a hell of a long way at the time. We got there and then you were given a raffle ticket. And there was literally thousands of kids going for all different parts and everything. And so you're given a raffle ticket and said, this is when your number's called, you go in. And we figured out we'd have about 3 hours of waiting. So in that time of waiting, we realised Oliver and I were the only sets of twins there who weren't wearing the same clothes. So we ran over to the BHS or whatever it was over the road, grabbed 2 shirts off the rail, and then eventually our number was called, and there was a bit of a sliding doors moment. There was door on the left, door on the right. We went in door on the left, and that just happened to have the head casting director in it. So she liked us, and then like 6 auditions later, we got the part. As easy as that.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell,
yeah.
So when you went to the audition, how much did you know about Harry Potter? I assume you'd read the books,
Yes.
but did you know it had become the phenomenon that it has?
Loosely. When we went for our audition, the first 3 books had been released, and then I want to say the Goblet of Fire had just come out, or was about to come out, and there was quite a waiting list for it to happen. But I don't think anyone truthfully could have ever said that there would be what it turned into. I was just thinking that we were actually filming in Oxford 12 years ago, the Goblet of Fire, doing the Yule Ball rehearsal sequence, so when we're learning to dance. And to think that here we are over a decade later and there's all you guys who've turned up to listen to what we've got to say, I don't know what that says more to, the social life on a Wednesday night in Oxford, or how big Harry Potter is.
Since we're talking about Oxford, so at dinner, James and Oliver were telling us about how when they were filming in Oxford, they'd just turned 18, so they were just able to go out in Oxford, and they went to one of our favourite clubs on a Thursday. They went to Bridge. And just how, like I was saying, that this is one of Oxford's favourite nights out, and yeah, it's just quite cool that we've all been to Bridge together, kind of. So another thing, obviously filming growing up through your teen years, you weren't at school. How did that impact the atmosphere on set? How did that work with school life?
I think it did affect it. There's no way getting around that. The good thing was that when we were filming, it was we were lucky that for every tutor there was probably 5 students. So it was a really good way of making the most of that. The only downside is that most teachers gave you all their work in advance, which I don't think the teachers really appreciated because they had to do a lesson plan beyond the next day. But there was, but the trouble is that sometimes you'd concentrate more on the subjects you enjoyed and kind of deter from the subjects you didn't. That was a downside to it. But we did get away with some cool stuff, like obviously homework and things. We were able to actually do that in the Great Hall, and if you're in the background, you haven't got dialogue. It's quite easy to sneak an exercise book into a proper book.
So sometimes
It didn't look very.
You're actually doing your homework.
Yeah, it didn't look very good when you're trying to work a quill doing it. But yeah, so we did try and get away with it sometimes doing that.
So you're all growing up together on set. Are you still as close to everyone now as you once were? How has the dynamic changed all these years later?
I guess, yeah, we are still close to quite a few guys. Like I was explaining to some people earlier, the best way to describe it is when you're friends with your friends at university now, or your friends at school before, you don't see each other all the time, but when you do, it's like you've never left. It's kind of that same dynamic.
Right, so the Weasley twins, I think the thing we all know and love those characters for, their pranks, their jokes, always making something fun out of any situation. And when Michael Gambon visited last term, he was telling us all about practical jokes he played on set and sneaking around to have a cheeky cigarette with Daniel Radcliffe. Were you two mischievous off camera? What was the most entertaining thing that happened?
Yes, we were very mischievous. We always used to say that, and I'll openly admit it, that we were the oldest of the young cast, but probably the most immature. To a point where we would be filming, say, on when we first started filming, the studios was, if any of you guys have been to the studio tour at Leavesden, it's nothing like that at all when we filmed it. It was like going to an old aircraft factory, which it was. And over the road from where we were filming, they were building some, like a call centre for BT. And we realised that the radios, what the studios had, worked on the same frequency as what the engineers had over the road. So, and Bonnie Wright, to be fair, who played Ginny, she was in on it as well. Granted, she was about 11 at the time, but still. We were able to, radio in, okay guys, you can go home now. And then you see the guys
Did you
put
ever
their
get
tools
caught?
down again. Beg your pardon?
Did you ever get caught?
Oh no, because we were by far the other side of the road and they couldn't see what was going on. And then subsequently when the buildings got made, we realised that it was about 310 yards. Only that because I could hit my driver that far. As you say, when you are filming, it takes a lot of time waiting around. So it depends how much you want to relieve the boredom by either watching TV or reading or doing something productive.
One thing that I remembered actually when I drove into Oxford today, I remembered a little prank I was pulling on anyone that I could. Basically when we were filming here, Oliver and I, the scene we were doing was inside, but we were on what was called weather cover. So if they're filming outside, if it starts raining or the weather isn't right, they'll film what's inside. So at pretty much 9, 10 o'clock every morning for 10 days, I got the phone call saying, we don't need you today. Have the day off in Oxford. And then when they started filming night scenes as well, so then my weather cover was then at night. So that means I was up at night to be told, you don't need to come in, but stay awake just in case. And the hotel that we're staying at, I can't remember which one it is, but it's like one of the main roads out of town. It
was really glamorous. It was a Holiday Inn on the M40, or the A40.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Anyway, so do you guys know where that is at all?
By the ring road.
Yeah, the one by the ring road.
Yeah.
So the long road that goes from that, which is straight into town. I was just walking down there with my little point and shoot camera. And any time a car went past, I decided to set my flash on and take a photo.
So it was right next to a speed camera.
So they would think they had a speeding ticket.
It's amazing how many hours you can spend doing that, though. Yeah.
And I learned from doing that everyone slows down after they've got the ticket, which is.
So if those are your best moments away from the camera, what was the favourite thing that you filmed? What stands out to you now? I'm sure you get this question all the time.
Yeah. There's a lot, actually, trying to put it down to one moment. I always remember when we did the Yule Ball scene in the Goblet of Fire, because it was filmed actually the week before Christmas, so everyone was in a very festive mood, and we'd been taught how to dance, which came across well for the 2 seconds on camera it was used for. But we actually had 3 weeks of practice before that, yeah.
It's proper dance, and not like pogo stick, but like a proper Yule Ball.
Like a waltz.
A waltz,
wasn't
yes.
it? Yeah, a waltz. And then, so filming that really stood out, because at the end of the week, you had the guys who filmed the pop group, and those who've read the book, there's actually a band called the Weird Sisters who performed in the film, or in the book, and they did actually film it in the film, but they couldn't use it for some, I don't know if it was a political reason or whatever reason. And but that was actually made up of Jarvis Cocker and all of Radiohead bar Tom York, so it was quite good. And they did a gig where you had like pyro going off, and Warwick Davis, who played Flitwick, crowd surfing, and a mosh pit breaking up and everything. Yeah, it was really good, really good.
There's so many. It's literally trying to pick something from. One that I was really good, kind of an ego trip rub as well, was in the 6th movie where Fred and George have their own shop. And so, I'm not exaggerating, the set was as tall as this room, all filled with different products and random, like there was a guy who walked up the wall as we were filming, and there's a huge cartoon version of myself outside with his hat going on and off, and that was just a really cool couple of days filming in there because it was very compact, everything's going off all the time, but that was a lot of fun.
In interviews with so many members of the cast, they always pick up on how sad the last day of filming was for the final film, because I guess you've been filming for so many years and all grown so close together, and then suddenly it's done. How did that feel, leaving something that had been with you for so long and then?
It was, it's hard to describe without sounding really arty-farty. It's very much a case of that you know that you've been doing something for so long, which you, after a while, you just take for granted, and then you realise actually it is over. We were filming on pickups, so it was definitely that was going to be it. And we knew that they were going to knock down the studios straight afterwards because there were bulldozers waiting outside. And because the next day they literally tore the studios down. So we thought we're not going to be here anymore. But it was the stuff behind the camera as well to do with that. You've got the friends you made on set and off set. You've got we lived in a hotel the whole time when we were there, which is great 'cause someone makes you bed every day and gets you feeling. But even just stuff like that, knowing I'm not going to be going back there and stuff like that. So.
I think that was the thing that had surprised me the most, was I'd kind of mentally prepared for not going to Lewiston anymore to film Potter, but I hadn't prepared of that final check out of the hotel, because normally I didn't even check out, I'd just go home and then they'd just sign me off. But then I kind of had to wait in the long line of people to check out in the morning, and I was, there you go. That was the thing that caught me off the most.
I guess in a way it hasn't really ended. Now we have the studio tour and the Pottermore and all the other stuff that's happened since. Do you think that's a good thing, that people can stay in touch, or do you think it should have stayed where it was?
No, I think it's really good that it's kept going. I think because there's a lot of things that we've noticed now that James and I are very lucky to be able to go around the world, because it's very much everywhere, and we've started meeting a new generation who've grown up with it. So I bet a lot of you guys in here today weren't too old when the first film came out, and yet now we're meeting people who have had children and they're now getting into it. So it's a new generation type thing, and I think it's brilliant because it's quite a timeless piece in terms of, because it is in a Wizarding world. There's no, oh look, they're using a Nokia 3210 in that film, not an iPhone. There's none of that. So it's quite. I'm trying to relate. Go on, you try. Go on. But no, so I think it does make sense that it's kept going. It's great.
So if that's part of its secret to its success, the timelessness, do you think people can relate to characters? How have you found people coming up to you and saying, Harry Potter's been a huge part of my life? How does that make you feel?
It's quite, it's a great compliment. But for me, it's hard to understand it completely, because when we film it, we're just filming in front of 100 crew, and that's it. So it's not like when you do a show and you see every night the audience. You kind of just going by what people tell you. But it is quite an incredible thing to know that so many people know so much about everything. And when I'm always a bit stumped when someone asks me today, what's your favourite line? I couldn't tell you. Whereas I know there's guys who know every single line of every single film, so I feel a bit of a fraud in that one. But it's still quite a unique experience, and one that we're just very, very grateful to be involved in.
So I think now we'll open to some questions from the audience, because I'm sure you all have lots of questions to ask. Any questions from anyone? Right at the back in the red jumper.
If you could take an object away from the films and the world, what would you take?
You don't work for Warner Brothers, do you? Because legally I didn't. But I've actually got. Actually, on the last day of filming, I got one of the skiving snap boxes, which Fred and George have, and I've actually got one of those with all the little treats inside it. Because when you're filming, a lot of just to look at on film, it just looks like a box, but actually inside the box has all the items in it, even though it's not going to be seen on film for that long. So yeah, that's what I've got.
And mine is bit boring. But my character lost his ear in the final film, so it's actually a fake prosthetic ear, which is like, it's basically that. I don't know why I'm doing it like that, but they basically stuck my ear down and then put a prosthetic piece on top of it, which was great. Apart from one time I went to, my football team were playing away at West Ham one evening, and Donal Gleeson, who played Charlie, Bill, our older brother in the film, supports Villa like I do, and we said, oh, come on, we'll go to the game. So we finished filming at about 6:30, and we said, if we leave now, we can make kickoff. And normally it takes an hour to take the bits off, but we thought, oh, we'll be okay. So we get on the train, get on the Underground, and we realise that no one is sitting next to us. And that's because I've got this gorge in my face, which is all... and Donal has been attacked by a werewolf earlier on, so he's got a huge scar across his face like that. And yeah, so I kept that ear, so that's on my wall. And also I've got a framed joke shop bag from Wheezy's Visiting Wheezy's, just because it's a bit more, it's quite cool. I'd have loved to have had the one though, but they were very tight on that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, if we go to on the front row in the green.
Hello. Hi. Was just wondering, what did you feel when you read about Fred's death? Did you feel angry? Because I did.
I hope that wasn't a spoiler for anyone. That was actually, when I learned what happened to Fred, I was in Japan, and the book had just come out, and it was in English. So I was actually travelling on the bullet train whilst I was reading what happened to Fred. So I'm reading it, and it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster, right? And I was surprised, what happened to the character. Then I was surprised what I was feeling for the character. I didn't realise how attached I'd become to the character. So I'm kind of in this mind head, like, oh. Meanwhile, this ticket inspector comes around, who's this Japanese guy who's kind of just prods me, and ticket. And I was just reading the book, and I was like, oh, mate, I just died here. Just give me. So that was the memory that I have of reading about. But ultimately, yeah, it sucks. But at least it happened in the last book and not the first one.
I thought, never mind.
Thank you for your question. If we go to on the second row here.
I was wondering whether you could compare the relationship that you have with each other to the relationship that Fred and George had.
Well, they're twins. I don't know, actually. They're probably about... I don't know. I always think that Fred and George seem to do a lot more together than James and I do. I certainly wouldn't go into business with James. In a good way, thank you. But you, I don't know. I mean, I think as twins, you do share a lot of traits, a lot of... are there any twins in here tonight? Yeah. Yes, okay, great. So I know that, like, you know, you're sharing experiences with each other, you're always being asked, you know. It's even worse when you have a birthday and someone sends you a card, 2 and 2 on the same card. So I'm sure they relate to the same thing.
Especially when you don't live with each other anymore, it's really bizarre.
And it's not even your birthday. And you can kind of get, so maybe that respect, but apart from that, I've got no idea really.
Maybe we don't have as much ginger hair jokes given to us as Fred and George did.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. If we go on then, yeah.
Hi, thank you for speaking here tonight. I was wondering how you or the casting director or whoever decided who would play George and who would play Fred.
Well, it was a really important decision, that. Actually, when you first start filming, you do a thing called a screen test, and that is nothing to do with my answer. You do a read-through. So it's basically when all the cast sit in a room around a big table and read through the script. So basically, so you can gauge timings and stuff like that. And we got to the read-through, and we still didn't know who was Fred and who was George. So we were like, okay. And then, so the read-through started at 1 o'clock. 20 to 1, maybe we should find out. 10 to 1, yeah, we should definitely find out. So went over and saw the casting director, Janet, and said, do you know who's Fred and who's George, Janet? And she went, you're kidding, right?
No, at first she was, oh yeah, it's a good one, it's a good one. Yeah, no, seriously, who is Fred and who's George?
So then you see Janet walk around the table to David Heyman, who's the producer, J.K. Rowling, who wrote the books for you who don't know, and Chris Columbus, who directed the first 2 films. And you see them like talking amongst themselves. And then Janet came back over and said, okay, James, you're Fred, Oliver, you're George. So we like to think that it was did no one get the memo about the huge meeting we had in America about all this? But more than likely, J.K. Rowling probably looked up and went, yeah, you can be that one.
Thank you for your question. If we go to, there's so many people on the front row. There.
Hi, I just wanted to ask what your favourite thing is you've done since the movies are all over, and maybe Harry Potter related, maybe not, but your favourite thing you've done since?
Work-wise or anything?
Either. Whatever you want.
Since Potter's finished, there's been a lot. We actually did a job for the BBC last year. It was a TV show called Danny and the Human Zoo, which was actually filmed in Dudley, which is about 15 minutes from where I live and grew up. And my mum's side of the family are all from the Black Country. So whenever I go and visit my nan, I get a very broad Black Country accent anyway. So this job was encouraging me to speak in this accent, which was a lot of fun to do.
And I think for me, non-professionally, it's been quite a lot. As you say, to do with Potter as well, because there's a travelling exhibition of all the props to do with Potter. So that's been all around North America, Asia, Europe. And with that, we've been able to travel all over the globe pretty much with that. So for me, it would be travelling the world on someone else's credit card.
Thank you for your question. If we go to here.
Thank you guys for coming. And I guess with Harry Potter, what's kind of so incredible is that it has the ability to transcend like an international scale. So Americans who know nothing about England are growing up and feeling so attached. And I wondered if you thought that there could kind of be another Harry Potter, because for me it feels so like momentous and of a moment, and like it can't happen again.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe that's very severe. But just if you think that like it kind of will exist in its own world, or if there could be another story like it.
Potentially, I'm sure that everyone would love there to be some similar thing. But I don't know, I guess it's one of those just wait and see, but it's really cool that we're all able to experience that kind of thing. And like Oliver was saying, we get to go around the world doing these things and seeing, like you say, in the States, and to the point where Oliver and I have been in Sydney and we did a skydive, and as we're going up, the guy who was like my tandem jumper was like, oh yeah, I know you. Like it's quite a big thing, so I can't really give a specific answer to your question, but I guess it's just cool that it's happening while we can enjoy it.
Did the books or the films have an influence on you wanting to come and study?
Absolutely. I think that our first week here, like half of the Americans were like, oh, the Great Hall, where are the moving pictures? But yeah, and we said it was too good that we would come to Oxford, basically Hogwarts, and then have the Weasley twins. It's like awesome. Too good to be true. Like, yeah.
Brilliant.
Just kind of building on that then, I guess the something we were talking about, like the generational quality of it, the fact that, so for most of us here, will have probably been around like when the last few books were coming out, and then with the films, and then now children are doing it, and it's keep on going. Can it keep on going forever? Will people always love Harry Potter?
Hopefully. I think it may be a thing because it is held in such prestige, and the great thing in hindsight when it finished, although it was quite a bit of a weird scenario to be in, that when the films were finished, but it went out on such a high. The final premiere in London, it wasn't. They were rebuilding Leicester Square, and there were some other franchises around at the time which had their premieres in like the Westfield Shopping Centre and stuff like that, because Leicester Square was not under construction. But the final premiere for Potter took over Trafalgar Square, which, unless you're a sports team who's just won something major, they don't close that off for many people. And like a vivid image in my head is walking, and you almost got out and did a perfect round shape, if you can't see that, and walking up the middle towards the National Portrait Gallery, and either side is thousands and thousands of people just to watch you go into see a film. It's really hard to describe to someone, what do you want to do today? Yeah, let's go stand outside and watch someone go into a building. But there were people who actually flew from Australia, from Brazil, from all over the world just to camp out and watch us go in, and then go straight back to Heathrow and fly home. Because it meant so much to people to be there. And going back to your question, I can't see that ever happening. I'm sure it probably will, but it's hard to imagine it. It really is.
Yeah, I think because for all my life, Harry Potter's been such a huge thing, and it still is. And I think that's a really powerful thing about it. Any more questions? Yes. If we go in the blonde hair? Yeah. I'm not very good at describing people, sorry.
Hi. I think I have a question that maybe a lot of people are wondering. How often have you switched spots and pretended to be one another?
James does a quite good job of it when the bill comes at a restaurant.
I just disappear when that happens. We didn't switch when we were filming, which proves that Wikipedia is a lie, just for everyone to know. We did switch for a rehearsal of a long Great Hall scene, and when the camera is at the top end of a table and it looks all the way down, so there's like 400 kids in the one shot, and we're near the back. That's the only time we switched around, simply because the amount of people who are in this room tonight, that's how many people work on the crew. If you're the reason that they're staying late or got to work an extra, do you know what I mean? Like, you're keeping them from their families or their friends or whatever, just because you wanted to break continuity, that's quite a big no-no, really. So sorry to be boring, but yeah, that was the... In real life, yeah, occasionally. Though we normally really did pranks on more elaborate things than the easy one of it was him. One being, there was one of the ladies in the production crew who, on the first movie, she asked, how can she tell us apart? And I said, I've got a mark here, which is actually a chicken pox mark from when I was a kid. But I said, I've got a mark here where I was shot by a farmer with an air gun for trespassing on his land. Oh, okay. So anyway, fast forward 5 years later, my dad was visiting the set, and the lady said, oh yes, I know how to tell the difference between them. And, all right, cool. How'd you do it? Well, James told me ages ago, he got shot by that farmer. So that was like a 5-year prank, which I'm quite happy about that one.
Do you feel like I've been inspired by Fred and George then, with the mischievousness?
Yeah, it's probably. I think we were always a bit mischievous anyway, but it's just poured gasoline onto that fire. You really, and you can get away with it. That's the best thing. You're like, oh, you guys. Whereas someone else did it, they'd be, wanting to strangle them. But
we're method actors.
That's it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your question. If we come to over here.
Have you ever experienced a really crazy Harry Potter fan?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna stand if that's okay. I feel like a bit rude hiding at the back.
Do I have to stand as well?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we have done from time to time because it means so much to a lot of people. There's a few random experiences. I remember once actually when we were in Sydney, and this guy, we were in a club, and a guy comes up and he's like covered in tattoos. And he's like, "This was my first," and he's got the dark mark down there. So that was one. And another one is when a man tried to get you to help him propose to his girlfriend.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we were at a Comic-Con, and the guy came over and said, "I'm going to come up later with my girlfriend, but I want to propose to her. Can you help me out?" Okay, this is quite okay. So he comes over and beforehand he like slips the ring under and says, "Can you just give that?" And I'm thinking, I don't have to think I'm proposing. So how do I do it? So anyway, I was like, "Oh, he's got something to ask you." And she was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "There it is." And so that was quite a cool moment.
Luckily she said yes.
Yeah. But then a bit of a mental one we had was when we were filming in Newcastle, and a few of us had just come out of a restaurant, and we literally, as we walked out onto the road, there was like 4 girls who just started going, oh my God, that's started screaming and started running after us. So our natural reaction was just to run. So we ran down, we're literally running down the Tyne, and then we get to the bridge, and then we kind of stopped, like, why are we running? And we turned around, these girls got to us, and then they obviously realised, why are we running? So it was kind of like a bit of an awkward standoff, and it was like, okay, thanks for this. But on the whole, everyone's pretty nice. So.
Thank you so much for your question. If we go to on the end of the second row back. Yep.
So usually people maintain that the books are always better than the movies. Would you agree
with
that? Not me, a lot of people. Would you agree with that, especially given that you're in the movies?
God, that's a loaded gun, isn't it? Well, I should have stayed at the back sitting down. It was much easier. I think that there's different things for different people.
You're even doing the political stance.
I know.
I think that.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I need a teleprompter right now. But it's very much a case of, I think, some things are how people imagine in their head when they're reading the books. I think the thing what the company did really well was they managed to get that in, on the whole, very well. The only trouble is that with the films is they had to cut a lot out. A lot of Fred and George's stuff, noted. So I think, but on the basis that if the first film had everything, the book has, it would be 7 hours long. So going on that basis, when you get to Deathly Hallows, you'd be there until probably yesterday. So it's very much a case of that's how it happened. But I wouldn't say I've got a preference between one and the other. I mean, I do like it when it's on the TV. I've got to be honest.
Thank you so much for your question. If we go to, I don't know, there's so many people. On the back of the, yeah. No, you looking around. Yes, you.
Hi. So I play for Oxford University Quidditch Club. And I was wondering whether you'd both be interested in being honorary members.
I'd be proud to be an honorary member.
Definitely. I think that stuff like that's really cool as well, because when we were filming the Quidditch, it was nowhere near as exciting as you guys playing it now. And yet, the thing is, I think when we were filming it, you wouldn't realise, or we wouldn't ever realise that it would be a sport played between universities, not just here, but all over the world. And I didn't realise how violent it can get as well.
It's pretty physical, yeah.
Yeah. What's your position?
I play Beta and Seeker.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Beta.
Great, thank you so much. If we go to, I think it's about the second row back, right in the middle? Yeah.
Hello. So Fred and George are in Gryffindor, but what houses do you think you would be sorted in?
Actually, I don't know if it's because I've already got the outfit or not, but I did actually get into Gryffindor, so I was really happy with that. I don't know if I manipulated some of the answers maybe to get into it, but I got that. However, James...
I was told I'm a Hufflepuff.
Well, Hufflepuffs are great finders, so...
Thank you so much for that. If we go right here at the front. Yeah, there, Julia.
So I was wondering if, because you played Fred and George, if you ever have trouble being taken seriously in real life because of the roles you played.
You know me then. Yeah, it's... No, on the whole, it's people are all right. I think because we played good guys anyway, people are a lot more receptive to what you're going to say. Like, we were out once in America, weren't we? He's left me now.
He's just gone full politician, I apologise.
So I think that what we need to do in this point is... And it's... but like, when we were out in America once, and we went out for a drink afterwards with Tom Felton, who played Malfoy. And this guy comes up and says, "Hey, Fred, George, yeah." Malfoy, and literally flipped him off and walked on. So, on the whole, it's a good thing, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you sitting down now?
No, I'm just letting you have your space. But no, yeah, like he says, it's kind of, it works in one of those where not necessarily being taken not seriously, but we're a lot more, I guess, approachable for guys who don't know us, which is always good. So, but I say it normally happens in a bar or somewhere like that where, and it's normally quite funny when people, you know, when you see someone but you don't remember where from, but you'll speak to them anyway. So that's happened to me a couple of times where a guy's talking to me and he's like, "Oh yeah, how's your mum?" And I'm like, "Yeah, she's good." But then you'll keep the charade up, and then eventually you'll see them go, "Oh no." But I guess that's because the characters are nice, welcoming guys anyway.
Do you ever feel a little typecast, the fact that you like come as a package deal? Is that a thing?
Well, you guys asked us together.
We did, yeah.
Maybe a little bit, just because that's the way it happens, you know, we get that. But on the whole, things are cool. We do live very separate lives anyway. It's the only time we ever see each other, really. Hence, I've got to be honest, we didn't plan to wear the same coloured suits tonight. James picked me up and went, "You're wearing a dark blue suit." I said, "Are you going to change?" "No." So we got in the car. But no, I mean, on the whole, it is what it is. But that's the way it goes.
It's not bad, is it? Any more questions? Thank you so much for that. If we go to, is about the fourth row back on that side? Julia, yeah. Over there. There we go.
Hey, thanks for both coming today. My question is related to your profile. I mean, there's evidence in this room that you guys have quite a high profile in the world. And I'm curious to know if you've thought of how you're going to use that to create the change that you want to see in the world and how you're going to create advocacy based on that.
Politics, go.
Right, we're all going to march to London, and then we're all going to, I don't know. I guess that we're very lucky with the jobs that we've done. That it's, like you say, it's elevated profile. And so what's quite fun is that Oliver and I are involved in certain charities, and it's just getting attention raised about some of those, and just attention for just, you know, I'm not trying to preach or anything, but just making the world a nice place for everybody. And it's just about if what we do can benefit other people's lives. For example, when we were doing the Potters, fortunately but unfortunately, every day on the set there was a Make-A-Wish child. And some of them are terminal, and some guys were in on the other side and all good. So you're very aware that what we did meant a lot of things to a lot of people. And actually one of my best memories from Potter actually was when we were filming the third movie. We were doing the Quidditch scene, which is dull. I'm just going to be honest, because it's green screen, and the scene that we're filming was in the wet as well. So just before you're filming, someone comes and throws a load of water on us.
It was really sophisticated.
Yeah, really sophisticated technology. But while in between takes, there was a guy there with his son from America, there with Make-A-Wish. And I was chatting to them, and you say your goodbyes, and then that's it. Fast forward about 9 months later, I was in New York for the premiere. And after the screening, I saw the guy's dad in the foyer. So I went over to say hi, and at that moment, the lad came out. He'd been given the all clear, and it was amazing. That meant more to me than any press or anything else that you've done. So to be able to be involved in something which can give great experiences to people, bring families together, friends together, and I just think we're very fortunate for it. So if us doing just a little part in a film can make a big difference to someone's life, I think that's quite a cool thing to have had. Yeah. Oliver?
Yes. No, as James said, we've been fortunate to see and meet more people than whatever, and I think you gauge. Certainly, you guys here have got a very the amount of people from all over the globe here. So your interactions and your how you view people would have changed since you came here. And I think that's a great thing that we've been able to learn on a selfish point of view, not necessarily to change the world from it or preach or whatever like that, but you understand people's positions on stuff and things. So it's very much a very lucky case to be able to into it. I've totally lost my train of thought because he's given me the stare of shh. I do it a lot. Anyway, back at the quiz. What else?
So thank you so much for that. Any more questions? We've got time for just a few more. If we go to right at the very back on my right. Yeah.
Hey, thank you for speaking tonight. I know we've had someone ask whether or how about casting Fred and George, but based on your readings of the books and your did you think at the time that they picked correctly?
Oh yeah. Yeah?
Yeah? That's hands down.
And my house says the same. No, it was very much a case of when we're reading the books, I think being twins as well, you very much read into it, I relate to those guys. I relate to those characters. And when the filming came about, we were purely in the right place at the right time. I mean, if it happened 5 years later, we'd have been too old for it. And that type of thing. So going through the whole audition process, I went into it with a naivety of, this is ours, from the moment we got there. Even though there was, thousands of people going for all the different roles, we saw loads of different sets of twins, we were the only twins not wearing the same clothes, all that type. Even though in my mindset I thought, no, we are going to be Fred and George. And then luckily when we got into it and the films came out, hearing the response from the audience, and they were watching it going, you guys are exactly how I imagined Fred and George to be. That was, to me, that was like, whew, we got away with
it. Thank you so much for your question. If we go to, again, right at the back on the left-hand side in the middle, looking around, yeah.
How did your parents react when you told them you'd skip school to audition?
They drove us.
They drove us there, yeah. They were, we're very lucky that Mum and Dad are very much of the same mindset that we are. That opportunities like this don't come around very often. And it's not like we were missing our GCSEs or A-levels at the time. It was, I think it was like the last week of term music. And let's face it, the music teacher didn't want to be there. There's only so many times you can learn to play chopsticks on a keyboard with the letters written on it. So we did it, and they were really encouraging throughout the whole process, which is we're very lucky to be able to have that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your question. If we come to you right at the front here.
Hi, so now you've done filming for the 7 previous Harry Potter. What's your view on the new Fantastic Beasts that's going to come out soon? And how did you feel about it when you first heard about the new Harry Potter movie coming out?
I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I haven't heard anything more than you guys. I was actually playing golf with one of the head guys at Warner Brothers in America about 3 years ago, and they told me that there's a script about Fantastic Beasts, but he wouldn't like this. Well, I've known him for quite a few years, And Golf's very chilled out. And I was like, so what happens then? He's like, oh, I can't tell you. I'll go on just a little bit. No, so I have no idea what else apart from what you guys know, but I am looking forward to it, and you know, I'm sure they're going to be held with the same high standards as the other ones. So, especially with David directing and everything, I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Brilliant, thank you so much for that. We'll come to, if we go over here on the front. Yeah.
I have a question. First of all, thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it. But also, how much, you said that J.K. Rowling was on the set a decent amount. Do you have any idea how much input she had into the movies, or?
Not really. To be honest, we didn't know too often when she was on set. It was very much a case of that sometimes, because we always used to hang out in Rupert Grint's dressing room, because he had one of the biggest. And he had, like, you know, he'd be playing table tennis or darts or Xbox. And then out the blue one day, she came walking in, like, hello. And we'd met briefly before, but it's still, as nice as she is, to me, she's very intimidating, just purely because we're portraying a character which she's written. And it was great. She actually gave us, told us like a backstory to Fred and George, or where the inspiration for those characters came from, and things like that are really awesome. No, I'll keep that for me. Sorry. Yeah. And it was very much a case where I didn't realise that she was there that often, but apparently I think she must have been. And if she wasn't there, she did have people who were portraying, like, her eyes and ears, as it were. And I think that her influence in it came through, because a lot of it is very true to the books in terms of an all-British cast and that type of thing. Whereas, you know, back in when they started, they could have easily gone with an American cast and make it more Hollywood. But that was, no, this is the story, this is where it's based. And, you know, I think the proof's in the pudding where how the film's turned out.
Thank you. If we'll come to just over here. Yeah. So just at the front.
Hi. Do you ever go back and watch the films? And when you do, can you enjoy it? And I'm also wondering, do you have a favourite for the films, and which one is that?
I don't like get out the box set or anything like that. But if they're on, I'll kind of just watch them. But I'm not necessarily, when I'm watching them, I can't watch them as a normal film. I'm remembering what we're doing behind the camera and scenes that, like, what we were doing in our life around when scenes were being shot. But sure, if they're on, I'll watch them. I always know when the first one's on, especially on terrestrial TV, because I'll get a text message from at least 5 or 6 of my friends saying, how high was your voice in that first movie? So it's like a home movie that will never go away. But in terms of favourite film to work on, like enjoyable, the most enjoyable would be the 4th movie, The Goblet of Fire.
Was that because we went to the bridge? Oh.
The bridge did have a high, yeah. And also, my favourite film from it would probably be The Prisoner of Azkaban to watch, I think.
Yeah, for me, my favourite film to make probably be Goblet of Fire and Deathly Hallows Part 1 for me. Yeah, it's always good having blood, and although it's actually like a sugary based thing, so you just stuck to everything afterwards. That was the one drawback from that.
Okay, so I think we have time for one last question. If we go to, so on my right, second row back, in the middle, with the glasses. No, in front. You there, who's looking at me? Yeah. Yeah.
What was your favourite set or prop?
Favourite set or prop? For me, the favourite set, purely because it never got old, was the Great Hall. From the moment we walked into it, I can still remember it really clearly, walking into it for the first time, and it was like all the flames were going. And at the time, that was when they still had the candles actually in the Great Hall, all dangling from the ceiling, and it was all fully dressed for Halloween, and it was absolutely brilliant. And
it was literally like, you know, in the movie when Harry and Ron go into the Great Hall for the first time, and it's all like That was what we were all like first going onto set. They should have just shot that really. But we'd also played football in the Great Hall. We've ridden segways around in the Great Hall. Cricket in the Great Hall.
Basically, it's weird now because if anyone goes on a studio tour, it's like, this is the Great Hall, isn't it great? Please don't touch this. Please don't. We think back to playing, as I say, like kicking a football from one side to the other and then back and forth. But for me, the Great Hall was just awesome.
The Ministry of Magic was one of my favourite sets because it was so grand, and they made it very kind of like communist Russia-esque, like just very oppressive but very grand on the same scale. And you looking at it, you forget that it's all fake. Like you would actually go up and start knocking on it, realizing it's not real concrete or whatever, but it's just the detail that goes into it. And in the films, it's only in for, like the actual set itself is only in for 10 seconds actually of actual set viewing. So to actually just walk around it, and it's probably, I'm not exaggerating, 10 times the size of this room. So it is like, that's how grand a scale it was. So that was quite a cool thing to just go and check out just for us really. And prop-wise, I'm gonna have to say my wand, because every actor had their own individual wand. And my wand, it wasn't very comfortable to hold, but mine was a pine cone-esque wand. So it's quite, not very nice to hold. You had an all right one.
Yeah, mine was shaped like a broomstick. So like a modern, coolish broomstick. There's such a thing. It wouldn't be very good to dust with, but it looks really good. So you had obviously the regular one tip, and then there's a slight saddle part and everything, and it was just almost, the detail would have gone into it, so you're actually holding it with a bit of comfort. Apart from if you dropped it, it would break quite easily. So you'd be pretending it's not broken, and you'd be like that in a scene, which looked terrible, was terrible to do. But anyway, by the end of it, my one looked like Ron's in the second film with sellotape all wrapped around it.
So I'm really sorry, but that is all we have time for today. Oliver and James have very kindly agreed to come along to our pub quiz in 15 minutes. So if there's space, please do come along. But can everyone please join me in saying a massive thank you to Oliver and James Phelps.